It's the night of the 3rd of February 2025. You're very welcome back to Real True Education, not fake news. And this is indirectly on the subject of migration. And Aasia Bibi can be spelled with one or two B's. Aasia Bibi was a lady in Pakistan who was a Catholic. And she married a husband, and he was a Catholic. And they had at least two kids, two daughters, I think. And money was scarce, and she worked on a bilberry factory, a plantation where they were growing fruit of all kinds. And she was the only Christian on it. The rest of them were Muslim women mostly. And they resented her and kept pressurizing her in the 2007, 8 and 9 and that type of time. They kept pressurizing her to change to the Muslim religion. Her reply was, Jesus Christ is my Savior. He died on the cross for me, and I am not going to change my religion for anybody. This is her photograph. Very ordinary looking woman, Asian woman. See there? Hope you can see that. Now, I'll see, can I get a bigger version? So here it is. So she was asked, there was a well a bit away, and the women used to draw the water because they needed water to drink. And one day it became Aasia's turn, and she was a Christian, whereas they were Muslims, and they had been pressurizing her to become a Muslim, and she wouldn't. And she brought water from the well in a bucket, and there was a big spoon for serving it, and she took a drop of it herself. And this is anathema. This is against the Muslim religion. The Muslims, as far as I understand, if you're a Muslim, come on here and talk to me. I fear nobody anyway. I don't give two damns. But the thing is, I'm not against any particular religion. And if you're born into a religion, well, you can't do much about it. But you can decide not to take on the worst of it. But the point about it is, anyway, she drank from the water. And they call them infidels. Call me an infidel or a kafir, which is a dog. That's what the radical Muslims believe we are, and that's what they're taught in the Quran. So come back to me there. Some people say it's disgraceful to have this type of frank discussion. I see nothing disgraceful about it. I'm giving everyone an opportunity to come back at me. This is a true story. In any event, drinking from this vessel, not being a Muslim, was considered blasphemy. And a row is, and you know, a crowd of women, one of them thing borrowed the other, and if a crowd of women have a scuff or a racket, all hell wouldn't separate them. They'll pull hair out of each other and everything else. A terrible row rose, and they reported Aasia to the police, and she was brought before several courts, and she was sentenced to death by hanging in the first court. I think she appealed to another court, and she was sentenced to death by hanging again. Her two lawyers were assassinated. They were killed. Both solicitors or lawyers who represented her and felt that it wasn't a fair sentence were wiped out, were killed, lost their lives. Okay. Anyway, it went before the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and the judge in the Supreme Court, or the judges, did not want to have her hanged. They knew it was internationally unsavory anyway. And while, don't forget, this happened in 2010, and it wasn't 2018 that it affected, that I became aware of it, and I started to act on it. So it had, over that 8 years, she was in a big old steamy prison in Pakistan, and the two girls, or two daughters and her husband, used to come up to the bottom of the prison wall, and they could shout into her wherever she was. They could shout in, "Mammy," and she could say, "Hello, how are you?" And talk to them. And that went on for 8 years. And while this was going on, the Muslims in the area were rioting. They were rioting like hell. And that they'll be rioting in Ireland before too long. But they were rioting in Pakistan and putting fierce pressure, had already killed her two solicitors. And therefore, they wanted her hung. And that's what they wanted. And they'd probably either hang her from a gallows or get a big crane. That's the way they hang you in these countries, and hang you up for all to see. And her children looking up at their mother. This is the cruelty that they wanted to inflict. Not nice hearing this, folks. I don't give two damns. Never cared about anyone, what anyone thinks. I would think this is wrong. So anyway, didn't I become aware of it? And the judge sort of put it back, and he made the suggestion that maybe she could be got out. Now he let her out on some kind of bail, and when she was out, the police took her into custody again because they knew she was going to be killed. And they didn't do it vindictively, they did have concern at this stage, and they put her into custody again. So the judge made it clear that if she could get out of there and be gone out of there, he might be able to commute the sentence to something or other, to a fine or whatever. Don't ask me. But anyway, I got involved in the act, and I said, this looks a very nice lady. She's a Catholic. Why don't we bring her over to my town? Why do we bring her to Kingscourt? Any town in Ireland. Why not bring her to my town? Why not bring her to Kingscourt? And let her come to Mass on Saturday night and give a little talk, and we'd all go up and shake hands with her, and shake hands with her family and tell them they were safe. And I, for one, would bring up a bag of sticks for the fire and assure her husband that we'd look after her and there'd be no one touch them here, get the kids into school and become friends. I thought it was a nice thing, something I'd love to have done, that I could have that input. I didn't expect too much. In any event, two other people did the same, and one of them was Patrick Manning, a man I never met, but the other one was a politician, a very well-known Irish TD, a very well-known politician. Now, not a good one for you. Now, it's not too often you get me praising any politician, but I believe in fair play. And so, in any event, I contacted all the political parties and someone in every party. And in the case of Fianna Fáil, I contacted my local TD, Brendan Smith, and I emailed him and I asked him, please, Brendan, will you take up this case and see can anything be done? This woman's ready to come. All she needs is to get a temporary visas for her and her family and bring her to Dublin. And I'll try and do anything I can here to get her a flat or get her something, or try and get her fixed up in something anywhere in Ireland. And if she comes to my town, she'll be in your constituency, and it'd be a nice little thing for you. But no dice. Now, they also tried to get her into Britain. I think there was some moves made to get her into Britain, and it was telling what happened there. For that old one, Theresa May, hateful old yoke, she rejected her application, and she said she was afraid it would offend Muslims. She said she was afraid it would offend Muslims. And you know, the one that refused to implement Brexit, Theresa May. So anyway, that's what she said. Might offend Muslims. Isn't that something? But I'd say there was contact between Ireland and Britain, and they were told the same. And I would think the Irish government decided it might be a bit hairy, scary. Maybe there'd be some Muslims attack someone if she came here. Isn't that something that we let ourselves go to that? That we're so cowardly to let ourselves go to that. In any event, the Irish decided no way was she coming here. She's not allowed in here. And I didn't expect anything else, to tell you the truth. But I'm just telling you what happened. Now, I think I've covered everything. Now, imagine her two lawyers had been killed. So, and she had lingered for 8 years in a steamy prison. And imagine the hassle and the trauma on her kids. I mean, our government are a heartless, cruel crowd. Oh, this actually tripped me into going on the warpath. This is what put me going. The terrible unfairness and the cruelty and the hypocrisy of these ones who say we have to have all these migrants in here and they're fleeing climate change. And here was a woman that was actually in big risk of being hanged publicly, and her children and all, and they wouldn't consider her worthy of letting her into Ireland. Now, I made a video on this a couple of years ago, and it's more accurate because it was at the time, and hopefully I'll be able to post a link underneath. They're sort of reddish coloured, and I think there's a clock and a picture of a house on that wallpaper where I made it. So anyway, that was that. So they shut the doors down in Europe completely, and they were probably afraid with the Charlie Hebron and all that type of thing, but they shut the doors down. She wasn't allowed, and I think if she had to come to my area, we'd have minded her all right, kept an eye and done things to make sure everything was all right. These people put the eye of Salman Rushdie at least 25 years after he wrote the book uh, Satanic Verses. Geert Wilders has won the majority of the vote in Holland, and he has told them if they don't want to stay in Holland and have manners, get the hell out. That was what he said. Now, I want to emphasize again, if you're a Muslim person and you're law abiding and you're here legally and all of that, I am not against you. We all are born into religions, and that's that. But if you're a radical Muslim, then I want you out of here. And that's as simple as that. Dump them out, and that's it. But there's not that many of these. In any event, who was the TD who wanted her in here and advocated on her behalf? And you're going to be surprised. And what happened to her? Well, what happened to her was she eventually was accepted into Canada, and her and her family now live in Canada, and they want no more about it. I am sure that prefer I didn't make this video. I want to say to Aasia Bibi, her husband and her children, I'm very sorry. I feel very ashamed over what happened. Ireland would have been custom built. This rural community would be ideal to receive a person like that and let her chill out and just enjoy life, and maybe get a wee job, and her husband get a wee job or something, and do some wee thing, and let her kids go to school, and look at, wouldn't they be lovely friends to have? In any event, she's gone to Canada, and that's that. And I condemn the cowardly Irish government, Fianna Fáil particularly, Fine Gael, Labour, the Greens, and Sinn Féin made no effort either, so they made no effort. The politician, would you believe, was Brendan Howlin. And I want to say to Brendan Howlin, fair play to you. You'll never be an enemy of mine. When I'm fighting Irish corrupt politicians, Brendan Howlin is the exception. He did his best to get her in here. And Patrick Manning, I don't know the man at all. There were only three of us, Brendan Howlin, myself and Patrick Manning. We failed. But hopefully the Irish people, because of this video, will be become more aware of what their government did. Did any of you watching this go in to vote in the election that took place in the 2010s and vote to expel and keep out someone like that? Did you do that? And what kind of a country have we become when a Catholic lady who said that I won't change my religion because Christ died for me on the cross, and I won't turn my back on him, and we wouldn't let her into Ireland? Isn't that something? Isn't that just something when you think of her history and the praying and all that was done? It's just terrible. It did radicalize me a bit. I have to admit the injustice of that did kind of radicalize me, and maybe it was God's will, because I don't give two damns about these people. I don't give two damns. It's very, very wrong what happened. So now you're aware of it, folks. I'll post the video I made earlier on it, and I think most decent people will be ashamed and will feel that I'm right. I didn't start this attack on the Irish state. Not the Irish state, the Irish politicians, not the Irish state. I'm a supporter of the Irish state. I didn't start this on them until they did these awful things and do so much awful destruction to the environment, the economy, and try to take away our future heritage. That's what I'm fighting for. Aasia Bibi, if you ever see me on this, I'm very sorry. I wish you very well, you and your family. Give me a thumbs up or comment underneath and say what you wish. Thank you very much.